Hi and welcome to our students and youth video for Elim Church Romsey for this Thursday. I think it's episode 8 now. We've had different people on different weeks doing different things. Next week it's actually going to be me doing the little talk. Today is the second part of Deborah Lynn's amazing study just before she goes. She's on for the next 5 minutes and this is really worth listening to. Here's Deborah Lynn.
So hi, this is the fourth one in my series of 4 regarding the Lion of Judah and on the wall in the back room and regarding overcoming. And I've done 3 in advance. I've done overcoming fear, overcoming doubt, overcoming temptation. And now I'm going to look at overcoming the world. So the Bible tells us to overcome the world. But how do we actually live in a way that pleases God? And how do we avoid all the traps that come from being part of human society, the world? How do we even know what's right when all the information bombarding us from society, the world, is so confusing? We're living in extraordinary times, but I rather imagine you're sick to death of hearing that. These extraordinary times have changed everything we thought to be unmovable and true and turned an awful lot of them on their heads. It's like they've stopped the world, but we can't get off. And you have seen so much change and so much shifted. Even the school system that we all thought was completely just set in stone and was never going to change has suddenly changed. And you guys, I know, have coped so well with it. And even if you've had the odd meltdown and the odd struggle, you are overcomers in so many ways. But how do we even know what's right? When the world is bombarding us with all these issues, and we're seeing in the news all these arguments and demonstrations and problems, how do we even know what's right? You know, even Christians, so many Christians disagree with the major issues of the day. You think about just this last generation, this last decade. We've got postmodernism, gender equality, gender issues, mental health, the tech revolution, human rights, modern slavery. You know, that's just to name a few just off the top of my head. There are dozens and dozens of issues that have come up in the last decade. And then we come to just this year. Well, coronavirus, COVID-19 seems like quite a prevalent thing right now. But with that has come lockdown. We've had schools closed or restarting or half restarting, family bubbles, track and trace, COVID vaccinations, or maybe vaccinations, or maybe it's actually something dodgy and maybe Bill Gates is out to get us all. And we've got face coverings and we've got Donald Trump and we've got Black Lives Matter and so on. And Christians are disagreeing with Christians and everybody thinks they're arguing it from a biblical point of view, that the Bible says this. And so this is what we should believe. How do we actually overcome all of this? Even Christians disagree, and sometimes you'll see them speaking when they should be silent, and far too often you'll see them being silent when they should be speaking. You know, the Bible says that even Christians can be led astray and misled, even while they think they're doing God's work, and even Christians will disagree. And we see that. We see that in Facebook feeds. We see that all over the place. You see, the simple answer is that we just need to get to know what the Bible says and base our lives on it. But simply put isn't simply done. Really getting to know our Bible takes a lifetime. But that doesn't mean that older people know it and understand it better than younger people. Sometimes, as we get older, we start justifying our own opinions and our own points of view and our own presuppositions and our own biases, and we can use the Bible to do that. Sometimes the kids see it clearer and the young people see it clearer because they haven't got all jaded with it, or they haven't heard so much dodgy teaching that they've become biased. Kids are generally just more honest. And by kids, I mean young people as well. That's why I really love your generation, because you're honest. But you know, although we do need to get to know the Bible, and it's really important to read it for yourself and really learn it, just get the feel of it, really get the flow of it and what God is really saying over the whole thing, not over tiny little bits and pieces and children's Bible studies. And children's Bible stories, although they do tell us things about God. But we need to get to know it all. But God's been really generous, and he's given us a few verses that kind of are like the Bible in miniature. And when we apply those, it makes things simpler. It makes it easier to find our way through the mess. So one is Malachi, I think it's chapter 6, verse 8, which says, "What does the Lord require of you?" And it's like a synopsis of the whole Old Testament. It says, "To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." So when you get a sense that something's the right thing to do, and it feels like it's in the Bible, it feels like this is the godly, this is the Christian way to behave, check. Honestly, does it bring you closer to God doing this thing? Or does it make you feel clever or superior or important? Are you fighting for your rights or for the rights of the oppressed? Is this just? Or is it just what you want? Is it merciful, or are you justifying it as being fair? See, there was nothing fair about Jesus coming to die for our sin. So even when we're doing what we believe is right, we have to do it God's way. And God's way might seem to be complete nonsense and might not fit with any of our basic understandings about life. And then there's the verse I go back to more than just about anything. When Jesus told us why he had come, he was subverting the ways of the world. He came to overcome the world, and we overcome the world in our own lives by following what he said. And he said in Luke 4, verses 18 to 19, he's actually quoting from iSAY 61. And he said, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour." When we're doing those things, when we're telling people about Jesus, when we're talking and speaking out that freedom, that prisoners should be set free, when we are declaring just God's goodness over the world, when we're speaking out against oppression, then we're overcoming the world. This is how we overcome the world. This is how we overcome the world's brokenness. It's not about our strength. It's about his. And when we choose to live God's way, then the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon us. Listen, I wear this old hoodie all the time that says Revolution on it. And actually, I was going to pop it on just now, but I think it's in the wash. But this is the revolution. This is what Jesus's revolution, what his manifesto was. He was saying, I've come to change everything you know. Because he didn't come to just fit into the world. He came to change the world. We overcome the world by changing it. And we change it by functioning with the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord upon us. We proclaim freedom. We proclaim God's favour. We proclaim healing. And we proclaim freedom for prisoners and for the oppressed. I can think of many things in the world right now that fit with that. So when you're trying to work out how to feel and think about those things, these are really good verses. But for the rest of your lives, this is how to overcome the world. Instead of trying to work out what's right or wrong within the world, go back to these verses. What does Jesus say? What did Jesus do? I used to really hate those bracelets, WWJD, what would Jesus do? They got a bit tired, a bit overused, a bit naff. But yeah, what would Jesus do? In this situation, in the world right now, what would Jesus be doing? Would he be justifying his comfortable standpoint? If he were us, I mean. Or would he be defending the rights of those who need our defence? Would he be standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves, or who can stand up for themselves but need allies? Guys, that's the 4. Overcoming doubt, overcoming fear, overcoming temptation, and overcoming the world. I'm going to record a goodbye message at some point soon. I haven't quite had the emotional courage to do that yet. So you'll hear from me at least one more time by video. And if you hate these, then I apologise for that. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.